As fly fishermen, we all know how to nymph fish. For many of us, we just don't do very well at it. We don't know where our fly is, we don't know where the fish are, and we struggle to the point where it's frustrating, and then we don't like the nymph fish. We only do it when we have to. However, there's a simplicity to nymphing. You just got to put the fly in front of the trout. If he's hungry, he'll eat it. If not, he won't. But there are basically 4 steps or 4 things that you can do to make yourself a better nymph fisherman. It doesn't matter what style nymphing you do. Euro, strike indicator, short line, straight line, high stick, drop shot. It doesn't matter. All 4 of these things will make you a better nymph fisherman. So that's what this video is all about. So hang in there and I'll go over these 4 things with you.
Hey, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike at Northwest School of Fly Fishing, the old fish hobo, and I want to be talking to you today in this video about the 4 things that can make you better as a nymph fisherman. That's what this video is all about, is making you better. I'm not going to convince you that this style of nymphing is better than that style, or don't use this, start using that, and blah, 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 blah. There's enough videos out there for you to get that. But what I am going to focus in on are 4 key things that's going to make you a better nymph fisherman. We know that trout have no or little cognitive thought. They have brains, the size of a small pea. They don't know what kind of fly rod you're using. They don't know what kind of expensive fly nymphing line you have, or they don't know what kind of reel you're using, or the leader you're using, or any gear you're using. They don't know any of that stuff. They're just down here hungry or not hungry. And what we need to understand is it's not as difficult as it may sound to become a good nymph fisherman. There is some simplicity to that. But either way, we need to take a look at these 4 things that are going to help you become a better nymph fisherman. And I want to start off with number 1 being weight management. I would venture to say probably the number 1 thing in nymph fishing that I see where fellas fail the most or have difficulty with is maintaining the proper weight on their fly. We must get our nymphs down into the target area of a trout. Now, the target area of a trout has a left or right, up and down waggle. That creates a target, and you want your fly to be in or near that target area. And if you're below that target or above that target or outside that target, you're not going to catch that fish. And because it's called a conditioned behavior, since that fish was a sprig out of an egg, it's learned that the river's a conveyor belt of food, and it just stays right here, and whatever comes in that target area has a propensity to be food, be it a piece of grass or a real nymph. It's going in or in the belly or in and out. That's the target area, and that's what we need to be in. And if we're not in the target area, we're not going to be catching fish. So it makes a big difference when you're using the proper amount of weight, be it a heavier bead, a tungsten bead, or more split shot. You gotta be in the target area, and that would be my personal favorite, is saying that's probably the number 1 reason why most guys fail in nymph fishermen and nymph fishing. Certainly we'll separate a 1 or 2 fish day to a 12 fish day. Number 2 is you gotta be able to read the water. The economy of time in fly fishing dictates that you spend all your time fishing the most productive sections of the river. If you're not fishing the most productive sections of the river, then you're wasting time. You got to be able to read the water. The river will tell you where fish are. You got to read it. trout need fast-moving water. They need seams to live on. A seam is where slow water and fast water meet. They need protection from predators. They need depth. They need food, and they need oxygen. And they are going to be in those sections of river where that is. So reading the water, what I'm looking for in reading the water, I'm looking for compressions. The river's turning, it's dropping. There's boulders in the river. They're creating these seams in the river. I'm looking for that in a river. I want to see color changes in the river. I want to go from gin clear to dark or light olive water. That tells me there's depth there. And trout don't want to be in clear, flat moving water. There's nothing there for them. They get picked off by birds. They get eaten by otters. There's less food, less oxygen. They want to be in that deep, dark area along those seams. I'm looking for the speed of the river. I want the river to be moving. I don't want flat, slow moving water. Trout don't live there. They don't have sunglasses. There's no place to get out of the sun. There's no depth to hide. There's no food because the food just sinks to the bottom, and there's a lack of oxygen. All in all, they've learned they're going to get picked off in there. So that's not where they're going to be. Learn to do that. Reading the water is something that is hard and difficult to teach. You have to be on the river outside and learning this as you go, looking for these three things. Number three is you got to make a smart choice in the nymphs or flies that you're using. Most guys show up in the rada, they're going to use this beadhead this, a hair's ear that, a paragon this, and jiggy that, and there's no thought at all that goes into their flies. So put some thought in it. And what I mean by that is, you say to yourself, is this a stonefly river? A river's either has stoneflies in it or it doesn't. And rivers that have stoneflies in it, I'm almost always starting, my initial strategy is to put a stonefly nymph on a rubber leg or something like that. Because what I know about stoneflies is they don't hatch to the surface. They actually crawl out onto shore. And so trout don't even know there is a hatch of stoneflies. But when you got hundreds, if not thousands, of stoneflies moving to the side of the river, there's one key thing here. Stoneflies either don't swim or have difficulty swimming. And when you get all those numbers moving, some of them are going to get dislodged and carried on down the river, just floating like this down the river, like that until they settle down into the river where they can crawl out again. And that's when these trout have learned, because they have the ability to learn, they'll start scarfing on those. And when I'm on that, I always start with that. Second thing I know is that up to 90% of what a trout eats during the season are mayflies and caddisflies in their winged or their larval form. So in some cases, I might want to go one of each as a beginning strategy, or put the stonefly on and one of those two at the second fly. And how do I know all that? Well, none of that stuff's a mystery or a secret. It's all out there. Talk to folks that know. Research. Find out what's hatching on our rivers. A good source would be the internet. Google a hatch chart on your favorite river. It's going to list you every single bug in the river and what time of the year that bug hatches. That's being logical. It's all about taking someone who doesn't nymph fish well and making them into a good nymph fisherman. It's about taking a good nymph fisherman and making them an exceptional nymph fisherman. It's going from 2 or 3 fish to a dozen or more. And we have to consider these things. But probably number 4 is probably one that we all stumble on. And number 4 is know why we fail. Know why you're not catching fish. It doesn't matter what style you're nymphing, Euro, high stick, drop shotting, bobber fishing. When we fail, it doesn't matter what style you're doing. You're failing for all the same reasons. And there's 3 aspects to failing. One is your fly's simply not in the target area. That's probably the number 1 reason why we fail. in nymphing. We just don't have our fly in the target area. And that's where that weight management really comes in. Oh, and how much weight do I need, Mike? Well, it's better to err on too much weight than not enough. Too much weight will still catch fish. We might get hung on the bottom more, but we'll still catch fish. Not enough weight, we're never going to catch a fish. So you got to keep that fly in the target area. And number two is we are fishing a river where there's absolutely no trout. Been there, done that. Or I'm in a section of river that has no trout. And you can be out there all day, 4 hours. You're never going to catch a single fish because there's no trout in there. Number three, and lastly, is trout are either hungry or they're not. They're either going to take your fly or they're not. That's the science. It's a different behavior on the bottom. It's called a conditioned or learned behavior than it is for trout feeding at the surface, which is called a trigger behavior. So we need to be on the river when these trout are hungry. And if they're not hungry, it's just not going to do well. However, when they are hungry and you're doing these things correctly, you're going to catch fish. So what we can do with one of them, which is not getting your fly in the target area, is we can simply add more weight. It's very controllable. You want to err on too much weight, not enough. Number two, there's no fish in the river. Well, that's because you're not reading the water right. Read the water, it'll tell you. And the trout aren't hungry. No matter what I do, I can't make them hungry. However, there is a strategy here. Trout see color in 3 different spectrums, and then the human eye sees it in 1. We know that color does things to fish. We can switch to a colored fly and take that non-feeding into a more attracted or aggressive strike. And we can do that with color. Now, I can tell you on many occasions when fishing's really slow, I switch to a red San Juan worm and it's just made my day. So of those 3 things, we can do something in each one of those. Don't be silly about it. Think of why I can't catch fish. And you will, by understanding why we fail on river nymphing. So this is really about getting better. If you're new to nymph fishing, this should be your guide. If you're a good fisherman or a good nymph fisherman out there, you might be well aware of 3 of the 4. And if you're a really good nymph fisherman, well, you know all 4 of them. So keep these things in mind, and if I'm lucky, I'll see you on the river.